right. Thank you so much, Jim, and welcome everyone. This is an exciting event for the Global Chamber What's Up in Global Law. We have a noted person that I think is human-centric practice in coaching and support, and also a published author. And that's Tomiko Nettles of Let Go, Be Great. So I'm going to ask Tomiko to briefly introduce herself. And while she's doing that, if you would, please assertively put questions and comments in the chat because we'll be responding to those as we go. And we want to get your input about what you think about what we're going to present today. So with that, I'll hand it over to Tomiko, and you see her bio on the screen. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Global Chamber, for first having me here. I am so excited to be here. And thank you so much, Chris, for just opening up this opportunity. My name, as Chris shared, is Tomiko Nettles. I am a former educator, also now a author as well. But I am having so much joy in this new phase in my life as an entrepreneur. And the goal that I have since I have started has always been very people centered, making sure that there is a human aspect to all that we do. And in my company, Let Go Dash Be Great, our focus is really on ensuring that the human why behind why they started the work never leaves the mission that they have for when they join a company. And so we do it through addressing any root causes and barriers that may prevent a team or organization or even someone in their space from moving forward. And we do it through leadership coaching, professional development that is focused really on team building and building trust, and then also motivational speaking, and then organizational refresh through focus groups to really ensure that the people who are closest to the work are still doing the work and being productive as well. And sometimes it happens through stories. And so we wrote 9 different books during the pandemic that really focuses in on main characters who may be surrounding us every day. And it shows how they let go to get to great. And then also journals as well to aid everyone in the process of how to do that same thing as well. So I'm so excited again to be here. And hopefully that's a great overview for you. And I also am over an initiative for those experiencing homelessness, providing toiletries and products every third Saturday of the month here in Illinois as well. So thank you again.
Tomiko, thank you so much. And in transition, I'll share these 3 points with the audience. First, this is a collaborative effort of the Global Chamber and also IP Rights for All and Technology Innovation Law, which are my two ventures. One's a social impact law practice, which my daughter told me the title was too long. So Technology Innovation Law's trademark is TIL. And the other is a legal tech startup called IP Rights for All. And we do this work because there are so many developments that happen at the intersection of global trade, law, and the different practices of its members and non-members, like Tomiko's. The second transition point I'll mention is Tomiko is representing Chicago big time. And that's how we actually met her. We were asked by an investment organization, 1863 Ventures and New Majority Ventures, to raise awareness of intellectual property with a cadre of her impact. And Tomiko was one of the representatives, recipients of that honor for Chicago and Illinois. And we've done similar events for Cleveland. So the ecosystem connections are strong. And we try to create more spaces to expand that connection from Tomiko's organization and New Majority Ventures into the Global Chamber and beyond. And that gets to the third point. Our shtick, if you will, or our nerdy approach to what we do in speaking of these intersection points, is we often consult artificial intelligence And then we add the human in the loop element. And I think you'll find that to be pervasive today as we share some of the findings from our research to prepare for this. And we do these queries on the same day of the event because we want it to be timely. Uh, and also, as you think about what your work is doing, whatever practice you may have, and also about what's happening in the broader marketplace in the world. So before I move forward in the agenda, just say that there's a QR code that takes you to Tomiko's LinkedIn profile. And yes, we'll be making sure that the Global Chamber community and Tomiko has access to each other because this is about building community. Got to give you one caveat on that, though. As an attorney, I have to say we're not giving legal advice, but what we will be sharing are best practices, observations, and experiences. And we aggressively ask you to put things in the chat, and at the right times, we'll come off mute and let's have a conversation. We're going to do all this in 45 minutes. Now let's jump into it. In preparing today, I took some major points to note. We said, what's hot in the world today? And we asked 5 of the leading large language models. And this is our practice because we do this in our professional work. OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, Meta, and Perplexity. Uh, the 5 topics they came back with are on the screen, and I'm going to read them briefly or at least summarize them. But I want to ask you to do this. Think about whether or not you agree with what they wrote. And then, not to put her on the spot, we're going to ask Tomiko whether she agrees. And if she does, great, amplify. If not, what does she think is the highest thing in the world today? OpenAI said the rapid advancement and deployment of artificial intelligence, and so did Anthropic, and I'm summarizing. Might sound a little self-serving since they're both large language models, which are promulgators of artificial intelligence, but there's a kernel of that that runs through every model that we asked and every research point we checked. The third point, which I thought to judge was one of the most insightful, is perplexities, the emerging global polycrisis. So I had to look that up. I hadn't seen that word before. And it basically is a confluence of a lot of different crises. And in the middle of those was artificial intelligence. But it goes on to talk about geopolitical power, climate change, economic developments, for example, the developments with tariffs, certain geopolitical conflicts, and indicates that we may be at an inflection point from its perspective. And then there was an escalating conflict in Pakistan and Afghanistan, according to Meta. I think that's a subset of what we've read about from this polycrisis point from Perplexity. And then this is something that goes directly to our audience at the Global Chamber, the great realignment of global trade and security. And again, when I read that, I subsumed it as, yeah, it kind of fits under the polycrisis response. So that's a lot. And I know we have some global gurus on like Peter Grabiak and others, and as well as Doug Brunke, obviously, Global Chamber. But Tamika, what's your take on what these models think is the most important thing in the world and why?
I am so glad that you did this. I would have never thought to do something like this with comparing all of these language models together. What stood out to me is the third one. I think it's very interesting that the first two are really around AI, but this third one, because it has a lot of the things that even though um, it may seem far away, is being experienced here in Chicago. That's the one that I can see that is more tangible because it has, I think, wherever you are in the world, you may find this actually true. There's a lot of things that are happening with climate stress. I know here in Chicago, they call us the Windy City for a reason, right? But, also that makes it where it's hard to figure out like what you're going to wear each day. Like what are you going to be doing and what's going to impede that? And then also, I know a lot of people are falling into whether or not they utilize AI in the sense from um, changing what their thought pattern is because they're relying on this device to share how it is they should operate, what it is they should say. So I do see there being that technological disruption, and I don't know if that's what that means, but I take it as sometimes the things that a computer or a platform tells us to do may be slightly the same or a little bit different, but it kind of removes this physical touch and this experience of us being a human and putting some things in there. And then also economic inequality. I told you all before, I do a lot with those who are experiencing homelessness and being really close to individuals who are in need and also individuals who may not be in need. There's definitely a thing of access and also belonging and inclusion as a result of that. So I see all of these things. I would love to learn more about what great power confrontation is, because I could do my own interpretation of what that is. But I do think the third point seems that way for me.
Well, Tamiko, thank you so much. And I'm going to ping members of our audience. If you have any thoughts on that, please drop it in the chat. We can pick it up on our hot mic moment a little later. And Tamiko, I would say if someone asked me to give an example of great power confrontation, uh, I might try to say it's the United States versus Europe economically. But I think a better example would be the armada of United States military vessels going into the Middle East close to Iran. So whether or not one may think Iran is a great power or not, I think that's an example of arguably a great power like the United States confronting another power. But that's just my nerdy take. So that warms us up. So we have all these global opportunities and topics. We have Tamiko's role of acting local in Chicago, but thinking global. And so now let's move forward in our journey as we learn more about what she does. And we'll make a brief stop at our top 10, because in our top 10, we basically amplify what we did in our first point of what's most important. There were a variety of responses, and there are too many and different to go over in our space, but I will just summarize for you that the artificial intelligence theme and the theme of confrontation, not global, but local, talking about Ukraine and Russia, talking about the situation in Africa with the Congo and Rwanda, talking about the situation in the Middle East, those smaller conflicts from a geopolitical perspective seem to be the two driving themes along with this pervasiveness of artificial intelligence. So whether you're in the US, you have AI concerns. If you're in other countries like China, you have AI concerns. And if you're around the world, it's a little different. It's patchy because much of the world doesn't have connectivity to the internet. So there's an AI divide that is becoming more prominent. But that's a summary of 10 developments that were provided by each of those AI models that we consulted. And if you want the detail, I can send it to you later. Just drop me an email or a chat. So now we're going to move forward and get a bit more specific to Tamiko's world. Uh, Not just the world of coaching and advice, but more along the lines of the world of publishing. So we went back to our same LLMs and we said, what's the most important thing happening in the world today? Give us our top three, and which one is the most important for you from a publishing perspective? Uh, you can see the answers on the screen, but I'm going to summarize my takeaway. It seemed to be traditional publishers getting cut out, and the creative publishers and their audience are being directly connected. So direct to the consuming audience seemed to be the most important. I'll let that sit for a second. And then let me pivot to that one in the lower left-hand corner near Let Go Be Great's really cool logo. I'm going to read that one out because Gemini, I think, like Perplexity before, did a great job on this one. Sovereign author infrastructure. And Punky, if you want to, is there something you want to chat about or share before we move forward on that? And that's the name on the screen, by the way. I just want to make sure. I'm going to keep moving forward, and you let me know if you want to, if you have something to comment, drop it in the chat, and we'll pick it up at the end of the discussion. Sovereign author infrastructure. Independent creators are utilizing specialized AI agents to manage business operations and generative engine optimization to ensure their books are discoverable in an AI-driven landscape. So when I start to pull that apart, it's like, okay, so basically you have an agent that's representing your publication and it's getting you on the right search tools, whether they're traditional or significantly AI-driven now, and putting you in the right place to be found. Talk about taking the publishers out of the loop. Ouch. So, Tamika, what's your perspective on this? Are you or did you experience any of these as you pursued your publications?
So this is very surprising to me. And I also think there's something too about algorithms because before this call, I saw on my Instagram feed a company that does exactly what this sovereign author infrastructure is doing. And I think it's something about algorithms within all of this. I don't even know if algorithms existed when I published my first book. Maybe it did, but maybe it wasn't talked about as much. But I did see and notice the fact that this one company actually had a way for you to put in your ISBN numbers for your publishing, for the book that you publish. And then it was able to use those ISBN numbers to develop a website where your book is there, reviews from all over the world that has been done on your book is there, and it is done within a snap. And I think about on the side of myself within my company, on my website, I have Be Great Products there, and I have all of my products and my reviews and, pictures of it and descriptions of the things. But it doesn't have my reviews from Amazon. It doesn't have the reviews that I have on the Talkadot platform that has the reviews from every single workshop or every single book event that I have done. But to think that this one particular platform has a way to pull not only things from ISBN or Bowker services, or copyright services, it also pulls reviews that are out here in the universe and puts all of those together quickly is pretty brilliant. And I'm like, whoever thought about that is pretty awesome, right? And it's all, yes, digital. It is all digital. And just seeing that, again, I'm very people centered, people focused, right? And as a people centered, people focused thing, I'm like, oh my God, what is happening to the creativity in this? But someone has created something that makes it less daunting for an author. It makes it easy for people to find the things in one place, which for busy individuals, like I know a lot of people on this call, something like that is pretty amazing all in itself. Because I know it took me a long time to create that particular page on my website. So, looking at this, I am in awe and I'm kind of scared at the same time. But I do think there's somebody who maybe have thought of something that was probably a pain point for somebody else and created a solution. And so, in that, I'm glad that people are considering solutions, but also just taken back by seeing something just before this call around that particular model as well.
Thank you
Yes.
for that real world. And now I have to do not a shameless, but I'm going to call it a public service share. So, because we both represent creatives and entrepreneurs from a legal perspective to help them protect and monetize their intellectual property rights, which are intangible assets that have real money value. And on the other side, we're building technology to help do what you just described, simplify a pain point. The two biggest things that stand out to me, and One's kind of personal individual, and the other one's big picture. The personal individual is if you want to be unique in a space where there's more automation, because before this organization did this digital platform you had, there were people and companies doing parts of that work. You need to really be smart and diligent about protecting your creativity and your innovation, your inventions, your ideas. And that may mean something as basic as actually reading the licensing agreements for a lot of these things. Because I think if you read those, you'll find that you may be giving rights to what you're doing to someone else. That's kind of the personal thing. And unfortunately, I get the pleasure of reading lots of licensing agreements from different software companies. But the macro thing is this, and I'll leave this with the audience to think about today and hopefully going forward. There's a value, there's an economic wealth grab battle going on. And it's going on in a lot of places, but in particular, it's between big technology companies that are providing these large language models, which are trained on what's out and available in the world today. And in some cases, taken from folks who had ideas and innovations that didn't get permission, and the actual creatives and content creators. So some of these controversies that you're reading about and seeing about copyrights, where a large language model had a single piece of software go over the internet and copy everything it saw, and then the company decided what they would use to create their model. Um, that's value. There are folks who are making money off that creativity, those songs, those musics, those brands, those ideas. And now that value potentially could be taken by the technology providers, and in some cases without compensation. So I say that to you as a shameless promotion for what we do, which is at a minimum, be aware of what you have that's creative, that's innovative, that can qualify for protection. And you may already have some. Document it and keep that with you because it may come in handy when you want to monetize it or protect it from someone else taking it, taking the value. So having done my public announcement with duty to some extent, let's move forward because now the next part of this is going to be super cool. You've gotten a little sample of what Tomiko's doing and why. And you also see our little logo for our legal tech startup, Tilly, which represents IP Rights for All, which is our software that helps protect and monetize innovation. Now let's ask Tomiko to give us a deeper dive into what she's doing in about a 10 to 15-minute share. Tomiko, please tell us about Let Go Be Great at a deeper level.
Look, where do I begin, Chris? Like this is very interesting. Like I thought you were going to answer some questions. So one of the things I feel with my company, again, is that human centered approach to everything, and ensuring that whoever is coming to utilize us, whether it is the leader within that organization, so it could range from an emerging leader who just started out to someone who may be veteran. Um, or it could range from an organization who is just seeing a lot of turnover or a lot of change that is happening within their organization. And sometimes change does not mean turnover. Sometimes it means here's a new approach for our organization, and we want to take this approach. But how we do it, we have to be very careful in how that is utilized. Or it may be an organization or a community group who is saying, I would love to just shift the morale in our space. I've seen that there are some things that are going on within our employees or even our youth at our schools. And we just want someone to come in with a fresh take to just get them to start all over again and recognize why they're doing the work, get them to build up each other, like get them to say some specific things that they need to do in order to move to the next level. Can you come in to do that? Right. Or we see all of these books, that are on your website. We'd love for you to come in and just read to our youth. Or, I know I've come in to read to adults. And that has been amazing too, especially around the component of social emotional learning, which is very huge right now because I know a lot of organizations a lot of people within organizations are really focused in now on mental health and wellness, especially mental health and wellness of the individuals who are closest to the work that they give. So, meaning that if it is someone is an educator, they are closest to the students, right? And they may need more support on how to balance what the students are bringing into the space with what they are balancing outside of the work, right? So my company really focuses in on the dash. That's why that dash is there between let go and be great, because that dash is usually the process. And we have to trust what that process is when, especially, we let go. And so organizations may be in that let go moment. And I know I was not an English teacher at all, y'all. I became an English teacher later. But you see a lot of punctuation marks here. And those punctuation marks are very important with things that organizations may be experiencing where they are excited about what's next. They may be questioning what's next. They have to put a pause to something, or they're waiting for that next step. And so, what we do is ensure that through the services that we provide, they get to great. And it's the whole dash to get there as well. Yes, Chris, sorry.
Tamika, I have to first share with the audience that when we first started working with Tamika, she made it a point to emphasize the importance of that dash to us and some other aspects of business. We were sleeping, to borrow a colloquial phrase, we were sleeping on that. She's like, huh, the dash is super important. And she explained that to us. The other thing I have to ask, though, is what brought you to the work and what motivated you to go to publish what you're doing in that work?
Yes. What brought me to the work of this movement is around a lot of individuals in our spaces that we worked in feeling like they were not seen, valued, or heard. And I was also in that space, even though I had quote unquote a title. I felt that some of the things that I really wanted to push the organization that I was with around was last on the totem pole. And I saw it because I was very close to the individuals who I was serving that it should have been first. And because there were other priorities, because there were other things, in terms of productivity that needed to be out for an organization or for a team, sometimes those things that we experience became last on the list instead of first. And one thing that I wanted to ensure that I did, especially in my company, was make sure that our ears are close to as many people as possible, and that the leader who is of that group also is close and not detached from what they are experiencing. So, because of that, I created this entire platform that really builds teams, removes silos, gets people to come back to their why, and then also moves people to the next level. Because that's needed. It's needed for us not to lose the why we came into the spaces that we are in. It's needed for us to make sure that we are not going through this journey, whatever journey it is, alone, because that could also be very lonely. But also, it's needed for us to be vulnerable and also to show some empathy to individuals who are on our team as well. So the books came out of the pandemic. They came from nowhere. I don't know where they showed up, but they showed up as a result of me actually betting one of my daughters to finish her book. She had never finished these novels that she actually created when she was 6 years old. She would write novels in different languages of different people, get into their character and write a story, but she never published them or wanted to publish them because she didn't think that it was good enough. And so during the pandemic, I was like, we got some time here. We can't go nowhere. We are around and amongst each other. So I was like, we're going to make a bet. And whoever finishes their work, I'm going to set a timer. Whoever finishes their work after this is over is not going to have any chores. We're going to take your chores from you. We are going to do all the work that's required. We're going to go out somewhere that you want to go to, and we're going to just put you on a pedestal from this. I set the timer. Before I set the timer, I asked my daughter to give me a plot, to give me a character, to give me something that we wanted to create from this. And I took a sheet of paper, and when that timer started, I started writing every single thing that I heard. And on my first writing, I wrote a whole short story in 7 minutes time before the timer was up. And after that timer was up, my daughter finished her work and I finished my first. And I read that story to them. And they were like, "This is good, Mom." Like, "This is amazing." I read it. One of those stories is the one that is called Joyce, There's Power in Your Voice. No, sorry, the first story was Carmaine Brown, the Classly Clown. And it was about Carmaine, who was a jokester in class, and the joke ended up being turned on Carmaine, where she learned a powerful lesson about sometimes the things that we do really can have an effect on other people when we think we're just being funny. And so you see the inner workings of Carmaine. And so after that first story, I was like, let's do it again. Did it again. The next one came out in 8. Did it again. The next one came out in 7. Did it again. The next one came out in 7. It was just a rollover of these particular stories, which now I am using to come into spaces so that they can start seeing people. They can start seeing their colleagues around them. They can start seeing their classmates around them. They can start recognizing these are some things I never knew were about myself that I either did to somebody or I experienced. And it shows again the inner workings of the mind that some people don't say. But also now people are able to see it and talk through it so that they can develop this sense of what can I do to change? Or what can I do to make sure that I'm voicing these particular moments so they don't go away? So that's how that started as well. Yes, Chris.
So Tamika, I got to first give you some applause, and that's like amazing in-house expertise for your kids. I'm sure uh, just very impressive. And let me build on that a minute for the audience. One of the things that you mentioned was in your journey that you're trying to engage with folks, and you're doing it in a space where it's becoming increasingly technologically, I'm going to say pervaded. Uh, are there lessons that you can share with the audience on how do you manage in that space, and also how you define success when operating in that space?
Can you reshare the question? You were saying technologically.
Yeah, in essence, in a world that's becoming more technology driven and less human, how do you define success in that space, and how do you manage in it?
Hmm, good question. So I feel like there's always a plus to how you can do whatever you do better through a particular mechanism. So in my case, and you let me know if this is where you're going. One of the things, so I was writing all of my stories, right, on sheets of paper. To rewrite the story on a sheet of paper every single time will be a lot of work. So one of the things I know I did was partner with a platform, right, where I can just upload what my manuscript is and then give them the ability to reproduce the work. Of course, yes, I got my copyright. So yes, Chris there. And I got, everything in there, reviewed everything, making sure that, we got everything grammatically correct and everything else, right? But this particular platform has my product that can now be published, printed, and distributed in multiple spaces. So for me, even though this is my work, right, and I have this protected, I now have partnered with a platform to make this work be more scalable, and also more accessible to individuals everywhere. So, in that component, I do see it as a success because they actually helped me get my things out there to people. And even this is a platform, right? Like, it helped me get what it is that I'm doing out here to other people who probably wouldn't have no idea about the work and the dream and the vision, that I had for actually writing this particular manuscript. So I do see that as a success. That I'm so grateful that somebody created, because all of these things that were pain points, right, are things that people are creating as a result. So I'm so grateful that there was someone who created that, for that to happen. And for me to know that that particular thing is out here, I think is another plus, right? Because sometimes people can gatekeep and you won't know how to do those particular things. But I'm so glad there was someone either who told me about it or something that I fell into that let me in on this particular technological advancement that could push my work to a new level.
Well, thank you for that, Tamiko. So we're going to transition into the next areas of the agenda, but before we do that, um, let's make sure that we're coaching the audience to drop any questions or comments in the chat. And in a few minutes, we'll open up an opportunity for interactive Q&A with the great Tamiko, who has the lowest energy level of anyone whom I've ever spoken. I'm kidding, totally. That said, any parting words that you'd like to share with the audience on Let Go Be Great, how you think what you're doing may benefit them, and how can they get in touch with you if they see potential value?
Yes, I would say like one, I have a couple of party words. I don't know how this is going to come out, but just bear with me, you all, because this is live and this
Yeah.
is this
And
is this is awesome. What are you going to
you
say,
did a summary
Chris?
statement at the end too, by the way, so it's
Oh,
cool. Yeah.
so I would say one of the things that I've learned, especially in this publishing arm, is that there should be no limitations in what it is that you produce. I think
Mm.
a lot of times we look at maybe like authors who probably got accolades or awards, for their work, or individuals who may have sold out crowds, to display what it is that they do, or people who can just come up with what to publish just like that, right? And it probably will put us at a level where we're like, oh, I could never do that, or I could never publish these things out. Or people who are just writers. I think about the great Maya Angelou, right? Like, who had such amazing poetry, I would definitely say, who put words to paper and shared those words in such a dynamic way that it left people thinking and wanting more. And so, for us as individuals who are on this call or who may watch this afterwards, you may think that what you have to share isn't good enough to be on a sheet of paper. I had no idea that the words that I wrote were going to be something that people resonated with. You have no idea that the experience that you may have had at whatever point in your life would also be that too for somebody else who randomly comes across your feed and sees or hears that. So I am saying if there's something that you have out here, it could be a small moment, it could be a big moment, it could be a moment that just changed your trajectory. Don't limit what it is you put out there. Don't limit what it is that you have down, because it may just be the thing that somebody else needs in order to let go of something and move into great. So that will be my first. The other is, you know, I am very accessible. I'm very a people person. I would say definitely my website is one way that you will see every single part of myself and the work that we do, from people who have experienced a lot of different things that are happening in their workplace or also outside of it, to move them confidently into their next spot without apology. And so one of the things I would definitely say, I know I have, strategy sessions on here. If someone is like, I want to start this new thing, but I don't even have a blueprint. Every single thing that I have done has been without blueprints. It has been just moving into action based on something that I've heard or something that I've seen that I want to move forward. Last thing, I know that this was the reason why we said we were going to do this. So I created this journal. It's called A Journey Through Black History, starting with your own. I created this journal because every single year for Black History Month, I would post quotes of famous African Americans. But I posted those quotes because I never thought I could be in a quote space. I never thought that what it was that I was going to do would be um, just worthy for for me to offer something to somebody else, right? Like you'll see quotes from Martin Luther King. You'll see quotes from who just came to my mind, Frederick Douglass. You'll see quotes from all of these individuals. And every year I would post those quotes because there were some things that I needed to see myself do. And I saw it in these African American heroes and sheroes. I just wanted to, right? But something dropped into my spirit that said, Miko, you can go deeper with these quotes. They're more than just here on this page. Why don't you do something with it? And so as a result, I ended up interviewing people who look just like me, who made some bold first moves, moves that I know I wanted to make, especially with creating my company, doing some of these things, like reading stories, like where these stories come from, like what happened there, right? Like doing all of these things. I wanted to see what did they do in order to start because starting was very hard for me at that moment. I couldn't even envision starting because I was so afraid of what starting could do. I was so afraid that if I started, maybe I would fail. Maybe I wouldn't be successful, right? But interviewing these individuals, I'm sorry, Chris. I'm going too
No,
long.
your role is constant. I love it, and
Oh
we have like
no.
two we have like 2 minutes to go.
Oh no. Okay.
So
Sorry.
let me just add this. The way Tamiko goes back to her audience, and this is one thing that stands out to me, is she will work with her clients and she will remind them of quotes they made and goals they set. So she closes the loop. And that I think is a great segue into our closing the loop for this edition of What's Up in Global Law. And we'll make sure Tamiko gets a closing statement moment because we want to be respectful of your time, but also make sure we're leaving you with something that's useful. I want to build on something Tamiko said about your unique journey and your th being worthy. One of the things that builds on her approach to humanity is today, if you want to get something like a copyright, you need to have enough human creativity to get that copyright. And the cool part about it is if you meet the standard, it can come into existence where you are right now. So, for example, if AB were to write the dopest rhymes in the world and drop some music on it, once he done that, and it's original, it's his, it's creative expression, he gets an unregistered copyright or a common law copyright in most cases. That's probably what happens. So your humanity will differentiate your offerings and your innovations as we go forward and have increasing value in an automated world where a lot of stuff looks the same. The second thing is that next show, we're going to talk about translations and how cultural authenticity affects those translations. And to wrap this up, we're going to ask Tamiko to close it out for us with any final parting words. And just in case you missed it, there's that QR code if you wanted to get her on LinkedIn. So Tamiko, close it out for us, please. You're on mute now.
I know. I feel like I just went over it over and over. So I would definitely say if you want to reach out to me, the QR code is here. The my LinkedIn is Tamiko Nettles. So feel free to go there or go to my company's page, www.letgo-begreat.com. if it is you want to move to the next step, especially during Black History Month, um, find this as well on our website. In here, you are also able to write your own quotes as you look at all of the quotes of these African American heroes, sheroes, who are in our local communities all over this world who are doing amazing things, because I also want you to do that same. I want your name, your legacy, your journey to be up on the lights in your community so that other individuals can also let go and be great as a result of you sharing it. Whatever way that I can support you, your team, or your journey, please let me know. This has been an amazing honor to be here today, Chris, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity as well.
Tamika, thank you. Thanks to the Global Chamber. And there is a interest group, a WhatsApp group of folks who publish as well. So if you're interested, do check out the Global Chamber. A tremendous number of communities available to you, and they're supportive. So you can have a global family with over 500 chapters around the world with participation. And I want to thank everyone. Have a great day. It's been a pleasure talking to you. If you have questions, because I don't want to leave you holding, hit Tamika on LinkedIn. You can also get me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to make sure you get a response. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. And Tamika, someone very inspirational. So take that inspiration and let's run with it. Take care, everyone. Have a great
Thank
weekend.
you.
Thank you. Goodbye.